The SBA is asking Congress for an additional $2 billion after the EIDL disaster funding ran out last month. But will lawmakers approve it? And what does this mean for small business owners looking for EIDL funding, especially in disaster-hit areas? In this important update, I'll dive into this funding request, which is before Congress right now, why it's controversial, and whether small business owners can expect relief anytime soon. Before we dive in, do me a big favor, hit the like button. It really helps this channel. Let's try to get to 2,000 likes in this video. Here's some important background context. The SBA exhausted their funds for new economic injury disaster loans and disaster loans more broadly. This happened in October. There was increased demand because of Hurricanes Helene and Milton, which exacerbated this problem. The SBA funding ran out. I had an SBA director on this channel talking about the situation, encouraging folks looking for EIDL disaster loans in these hard-hit areas to still submit applications. But as of October, new loan offers have been halted. There are tens of thousands in the queue awaiting a congressional decision. Will funding be replenished or not? If you can't wait for funding for your business, or you want to see your options today, grants, loans, lines of credit, other credit options, all available to see and apply to for free on Skip. Go to tryskip.com or use the link in the description. So last week, President Biden announced a $98 billion disaster relief package. A lot of that goes to FEMA, but $2 billion is set aside for the SBA for disaster loans. And this was presented to Congress last week by the Transportation Secretary, FEMA Administrator, and the head of the SBA, Isabel Guzman. So in this broader funding package, there's FEMA funding for disaster recovery. We're seeing more disasters every year across the U.S., additional allocations in infrastructure repair and community support. That's why the Transportation Secretary was there, and the SBA asked $2 billion for EIDL disaster loans. There's urgency here. The SBA wants to stabilize disaster-stricken economies, and there's an impact on small businesses and local economies if funding delays continue. So here are the arguments for and against this funding and whether or not Congress will approve this anytime soon. The arguments in favor contend that this $2 billion would help provide immediate relief for struggling businesses. We've been covering EIDL loans for over 4 years on this channel. Many of them were the COVID EIDL loans that a lot of you watching took. 4 million of those loans were given out. They saved a lot of businesses. That's the argument for. The other argument, protecting jobs and local economies, especially in these hard-hit areas. They not only help save businesses, but they help sustain communities. Now, here are a couple arguments against that came up on this hearing and elsewhere. There's concerns, as we know, about government spending. Fiscal conservatives want to offset new spending with cuts elsewhere. And in this hearing, it didn't even come up. DOGE, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, led by Vivek and Elon, as part of the incoming Trump administration, to slash billions, perhaps trillions in government spending. How closely will they be looking at SBA funding programs? I guarantee SBA will get attention here. The question is, what will they do to existing relief programs? That remains to be seen, but big things are going to happen there. So that's why if you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe, turn on alerts, so you never miss out on anything small business or funding related. The other argument against is program efficiency and oversight. Critics, we've heard this many times, argue SBA disaster loan programs are slow and inefficient, citing some of the issues in the past. Many of you have gone through this firsthand. What do you think about those arguments for and against? Where do you fall? Let me know in the comments. Now, there is a possible compromise here, which is, of course, streamlining the SBA program to address critics' concerns while approving this funding. There is a looming government budget deadline of December 20th to prevent a government shutdown, so an agreement needs to be made by then. The question is, will this $98 billion or $2 billion for the SBA be in the agreement or not? Here's what experts are saying. Some say delays in disaster relief funding have a ripple effect, prolonging recovery for years. As an aside, I'm reading this great book now that talks about climate disasters over the past 20 years. in the U.S., how they're increasing. This includes the hurricanes, flooding, wildfires, the great displacement. It talks about FEMA and SBA programs and gives examples of when they've been helpful and when they've caused more harm than good. Really interesting read. Another argument, SBA disaster loans are one of the most efficient ways to stabilize local economies after a disaster. What comes up in this book, which is a bigger question, is how to prevent some of the impacts of these disasters in the future. Here are some predictions. There is a bipartisan acknowledgement of disaster relief needs. I think the funding will eventually be approved, but the timing is uncertain, and experts warning against tying this funding to unrelated political debates, such as that December 20th budget deadline I mentioned a minute ago. Here's the conclusion and a call to action. The SBA's $2 billion funding request is critical for small business owners, entrepreneurs, many of you watching. The outcome will depend on how Congress balances urgency with political debates. Should Congress fast-track SBA's EIDL disaster funding or not? Do you agree with critics who want more SBA oversight? Let me know in the comments, and if you need funding now, whether it's grants, loans, or lines of credit, go check out options for free on Skip, tryskip.com, or the link in the description. Stay tuned for updates on this critical issue and what it means for small business owners. Thanks for subscribing. Most importantly, stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.